Hey guys, it's Morphy here, and I'm here today with Robert Reed. And many of you, I'm sure, who follow me also follow Robert because he's got quite a good following now on Twitter. And he also has his own YouTube channel. But the first thing I'm going to ask Robert is, Robert, what's your story? What's your background? And how did you become an unbeliever?
Hi everybody. My name is Robert Reed, and I spent pretty much from the time I could crawl up until the age of 39 being a hardcore fundamentalist, Bible-believing Christian. I was a literalist. It was six-day creation. If it wasn't the Bible, it was true. We were kind of taught not to question, except I was the type of personality who always had a truckload of questions. And probably one of my earliest memories was Sunday school, and I got kicked out of Sunday school because when we were going over the Noah's Ark story, one of the first questions I asked was, what did Noah do with all that poop? Long story short, the Sunday school team, the first thing was, of course, they threw it overboard, but that just didn't make any sense. And so I just kept asking questions, and at the end of the day, she told me, one, get out of class, two, you're going to go to hell. And at that moment, I had kind of the worm put in my head, so I just never really stopped asking questions. And I can go on for days on this one, but on the 39th year of my life, I just stopped accepting what I thought were bullshit answers, and I just realized I don't believe this stuff, so I'm an atheist now.
So, Robert, two things strike me there about what you've said. Firstly, was it a gradual unraveling from that point, or was it, not so gradual and then there was a big moment where you decided that you wanted to walk away from the religion? And the second thing is, have your attitudes towards things like the LGBTQI community and so on changed since being a believer and now being a non-believer?
Yeah, so it was a gradual unraveling, as you say it. I always said what it is I was taught to say, because that's all I've ever known my entire life. But even though I said certain really horrible things, like I said, you can edit this out, but I called gay people faggots. I told them their lifestyle, it's not a lifestyle, was an abomination. All that stuff that I was taught to say, but every time the words came out of my mouth, there was something inside, and I was like, what the fuck are you saying? And it just never, because one of my big eye-opening experiences was going to college. I'm from a small town. I grew up on a military installation for the other portion of my life, so you're very sheltered. You go from that to Austin, Texas, in a school that was almost 70,000 people. You get exposed to a lot of people. And what is it? Prejudice very rarely survives experience. I finally saw the gay people that I was taught to bash, and you know what? They weren't horrible people. And so that really put the light bulb off, saying, all these people that I've been taught to hate, they're not worthy of hate. And especially with the gay community. I have my older sister is actually a trans woman, which also effed me up during my childhood because I was taught to think a certain way, and here someone is in my house, my older sister, and I love her, right? And so now here I am, almost 50. My attitude hasn't just changed towards the LGBTQ plus community. I am active in the LGBT, and it's one, it's the right thing to do, and two, it's almost my way of apologizing, right? I'll teach self-defense seminars now to gay groups, lesbian groups, trans groups, because they need protecting. And I also live in the state of Texas, that has the highest rate of hate crimes towards the LGBT community.
Okay, Robert, that actually throws in a couple of things. I think I've been an atheist all my life, but I've become more in tune with my atheism in the last, say, 6 to 10 years. And I think my attitude towards things like the LGBTQI community has changed a lot in that time as well. I don't think I was perhaps as anti as you would be coming from a religious point of view, but I certainly wasn't a big supporter. But once you actually start looking into science and actually learning a few of these things, you can't help but change your attitude. It's clear that it's completely natural. We see it throughout the animal kingdom, for example. So if it's completely natural, how can you rail against it? As soon as you've got that sort of informed judgment, you have to be a supporter, because at the end of the day, everybody is just a person. We're all just people doing the best we can. So that's one thing. And the second point that came out of that, Robert, do you think that the atheist community is going through a similar sort of process to which the LGBTQI community has gone through in the past? So they're unless you're a religious fundamentalist, now most people are accepting. Do you think that that's a process that the atheist community are now going through as well?
Sadly, yes. And I don't want to take any thunder away from the LGBTQ plus crowd, but yeah, in that I live in one of the 7 states here in the United States to where it is still on the books, state law, that an atheist can't run for public office. Now, the good news is federal law states Trump law. Did I say that right? Federal law trumps state law. And so it's kind of non-enforceable. Excuse me, but the fact that that is even on the books, that it's a topic of conversation, is absurd. It's ridiculous. It's insulting. It's dehumanizing. And yeah, and I'm sitting here actually thinking now about my own personal travel with telling people that I don't believe in God. I can honestly tell you that the nature of those relationships have either changed or ended, not because of me, but because the believer has this preconceived notion of what an atheist is. And so my relationships have changed or they have ended. And so, yeah, we are kind of going through somewhat of a LGBTQ evolution, in that we are definitely fighting for acceptance. I mean, just here in the United States, again, if you dare fix your mouth to say you are an atheist, you can't run for president here. You can't even run for president of your kid's PTA, right? So, yeah, there is somewhat of a similar discrimination evolution going on with the atheist community here in the United States.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that about the American politics, the state of American politics. And I know that various people think that you probably already have had an atheist president, but just not somebody who would actually say that they were. Here in Australia, we have had an openly atheist prime minister. And over here, for the most part, most people don't really care that much about different people's beliefs. And so I'm always interested to hear from people in the United States who do seem to have that sort of experience of the whole thing. Now, unlike a lot of people who have become atheists, though, you still seem to have a good relationship with your family. Is that the case?
I do. And we pretty much had to kind of come to an unspoken agreement that we're just going to not talk about it. My mom is closer to 80 than she is 50, so is my dad. And it's just not worth spending whatever time we have left arguing over something that we'll never see eye to eye on. My aunt is actually 78. I'm thinking about all my cousins are over 50. And I swear to you, just yesterday, I was an 18-year-old boy. My beard all was one color. And today I walk with a cane and a severe limp, and I'm knocking on 50's door. And so the fighting over theism and all this other stuff, that's why I have Twitter and YouTube. That's great. But my family is different. I would much rather sit down with a big fat bowl of gumbo and laugh about how, we used to slide down the levees versus have a fight on whether there's an invisible man in the sky or not. I don't want to waste my time, whatever time I have left with them, talking about some bullshit that we'll never see eye to eye on. It's not worth it to me.
Yeah, that sounds like a really sensible sort of approach. And as for the age thing, thinking 18 yesterday, I often, when I'm shaving, look in the mirror and think, where did that old person come from?
Yeah. I was the same way. I can't remember exactly what age it was, but all the men in my family, despite what you see on top of my dome now, I actually could grow a full head of hair. Reeds don't go bald. We just go gray as a fox by 29. And I can't remember exactly what age it was, but I remember waking up one morning and what you see here just was overnight. I'm like, what is this cotton shit on my face? And it's my hair. And when I trim my beard and I look down and half the sink is covered in this cotton stuff, I still can't get over it. It's like, how did I get to this point? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I can understand that. I found the first grey in my hair at 19, which is really
That
worrying.
sounds about right. and for me, believe it or not, it doesn't bother me. I'll never color my beard. I don't give two shits. If I were to ever grow hair out, I would never color what's on top of my head. I don't care. It's just still someone's like, I don't know where the time went. Just yesterday, I enrolled in college. I've got a mortgage payment now. I don't know how that happened so fucking fast.
Anyway, Robert, I think we're in danger there of this becoming an episode of Grumpy Old Gits rather than Atheist Morph. So perhaps we should move on from there a little bit. And I've just got something that I wanted to share with you, if I can find it. So, okay, so I tried to find your channel earlier, and I found a lot of Robert Reed ones.
Yes, you will.
I know that you're on with Peter on Gonna Go For It, and you're one of the co-hosts there. And yeah, I've seen you on a few other things as well, but perhaps you could talk about your channel, which actually I don't think has actually launched just yet, has it?
And it has not launched just yet.
Okay. So if you could talk about what that is, what it's going to do, and where you are in starting it, that would be a good thing to start with. And also talk about the other things that you do with various other sites, like the Gonna Go For It site.
Okay. So I've got my own channel, and I'm the world's worst host at this stage of the game. So I'm not 100% sure I remember the name, but I think it's Stronger. Pardon me, everybody. Stronger with Robert Reed. And the other channel is all theists talking to atheists. This one is going to have nothing to do with religion or no religion at all whatsoever. This is all mental health. And the reason why I launched it is because I had a very probably typical but yet very difficult road with mental health. I'm a middle-aged black guy from the South. I do not fit the profile at all whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, there was no mental illness when I was growing up, right? Long story short, if you acted the way I acted in the 70s and the 80s, you were either crazy or you were disrespectful. And both of those got the same treatment, which is pretty much a leather strap across the back of your thighs. And so it was just a very difficult road. And so, again, long story short, I started this channel so I could talk about my travels, my struggles, my triumphs. Maybe at least one person out there can kind of relate. And that's kind of why I did it, just kind of get shit off my chest and let other people know. Basically, you're not alone, right? We give cancer patients ticker tape parades. We wear, the yellow band on the wrist. And some people still call mentally ill people just fucking crazy. So I launched that new site to talk on that topic.
Yeah, Robert. I hope that the new channel goes well because mental health is a very, very important thing. I've had one or two struggles myself in recent times. I'm pretty okay at the moment, but I think most people do, and most people don't admit to it. It's almost like there's something really wrong with you if you have something wrong, mental health wise, and yet I would imagine that during the course of their lives, most people struggle with something at some stage.
Sure, sure.
Um, but coming back to your work with Peter on the Gonna Go For It channel, um, recently you've had a few conversations with a young lad called Ronaldo
Yeah.
and his is it Mother of God or something, Wife of God?
The
Um,
wife of God. The wife of God.
yeah, mentor Johan, and I know that for a time you and Peter were deeply worried about that relationship and that whole setup. So, would you like to
Very.
talk a little bit about those conversations and about
Yeah.
yeah
So with Ronaldo, excuse me, my very first, Peter brought me on, and he even told me, in the pregame show, he wanted me to do that show because he thought I could connect with Ronaldo. And I will be good goddamn if Peter did not nail it, because that very first interview was incredibly difficult for me. Because I'm sitting here listening to this boy talk, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this. What's the math on that? I'm 30 years older than this kid. Every word, every sentence he started, in my mind, I was finishing. And so it's just very hard to hear him say the shit that he was saying because I once said it, except I would dare to say I was probably a little bit more intense. And I keep talking to him because there's a personal interest in that boy, and I truly want him to be okay. Now, the person who's influencing him, whose name I won't say ever again, so henceforth I would just call him Fuckface McGee. I don't. I know several cult survivors, and this just sounds very, 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 very similar. In that, to everyone else, it just sounds almost comical. Here's a grown man saying that he's the wife of God. And when you make those outrageous claims and when you can get into someone's head and make them actually believe something so fucking stupid, what normally happens is very negative. I know people who survived a cult whose name I won't say, but the centerpiece of this cult was a man who claimed he was actually Jesus Christ. One of the things he would make people do in that cult to show reverence to Jesus Christ was when your daughter reached the age of sexual maturity, you had to pretty much give your daughter to fucking Jesus Christ. And by give it to her, I mean he would have sex with her. And by sex with her, I mean he would rape her repeatedly, with a lot of times the mom and the dad in the room at the exact same time. And so it's funny to sit here and like, oh, that's Jesus. That's funny. Or there's the wife of God with a beard and a dude who slings drinks for a living. And it's funny to hear because it's so outrageous. But it's not funny when someone starts to believe that shit and when people start to internalize that shit. And the results are normally very, very tragic. And I've never met this kid personally, but from across the ocean, I'm actually very concerned for him because that's not normal. That is not normal. A grown man with a beard saying that he's the wife of God, and that his son, he's white, Ronaldo's black, and some way, somehow, the wife of God, and this is just a recipe for something real fucked up to happen. So I'm actually very concerned for this kid.
So I know Peter tried to make some phone calls to authorities and so on.
Yes, he did.
Did anything come from that?
From what I remember, so apparently hold on, I get this straight. The wife of God has got some legal issues. I do remember that. There are several restraining orders against him. I'm trying to remember if Peter did anything in terms of like child protective services type of thing. But as far as we know, in terms of Peter's background research, Ronaldo is as safe, I guess, as he can be in that situation. Because Fuckface McGee actually lives in the same house with this boy and his family. But as far as we know, no real crime has been committed yet.
But linking back to what we were talking about just now, this is a recipe for future mental health issues, I would have thought.
No question. No, even so. I remember. This may be an extreme example, but how fitting. One of my jobs, because athletes can't work, it's part of NCAA rules, except it's the summer. My junior year, I worked at a mental health hospital. I was basically a heavy. And so if someone wigged out, they got the college football player basically just to go and tackle that person until the more qualified people came in. And I still remember there was a little girl there. There were two kids that I will never forget for as long as I live. And basically she had been molested from almost the day she was born until, let's just say 10. But if that's all you've ever known, that's your normal. So they put her in this mental hospital because when they finally broke the news that dads don't do this to their daughters, she's going to fucking lose it. And at least she was in the appropriate place when she lost it. That, to me, long story short, is what's going to happen to Ronaldo. Eventually, he's going to figure out that the wife of God isn't a guy who slings alcohol for a living, right? The wife of God doesn't have a beard. The wife of God isn't a dude. The wife of God doesn't exist. And I think eventually he's going to realize he lost a better portion of his life to this bullshit. And I think he's going to crack. I really do. I mean, in all honesty, quick right-hand turn, it's kind of the atheist evolution. For those of us that were born hardcore into religion, there's an anger part. I wasted 39 years hating people. I wasted 39 years saying stupid shit. I wasted 4 decades I'll never fucking get back. And so, yeah, those first 6 months to a year, you're pissed the fuck off. And you're screaming at people. Yeah, I'm an atheist. You want to make something out of it. I think that's going to be Ronaldo's path. He may snap out of it at 25, and he's going to look back and he's like, I actually believed so when they told me they were the wife of God. I feel for the kid.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of what you say there resonates with me. The whole thing with the cults, isn't it surprising how many times a cult or a new religion is about sexual dominance or sexual possession? You know, just thinking about the Mormons, and we all know how Joseph Smith carried on, and he had revelations that he had to sleep with various people and so on, and that was all at the inception of their religion. So the other thing you mentioned about the cult with the guy who was claiming to be Jesus Christ, and I just want to ask this because I've had it in a few of my videos. Where do you stand on mythicism? Do you think there was actually a dude called Jesus who the stories are based on, or do you think it's all myth?
You know, I'll be 100% honest because I've been asked this before. I don't know. The Jesus topic, for as many times I've read and studied the Bible, the Jesus topic is probably the one thing I researched the least. So just kind of for the sake of argument, when I talk to Christians, I'll spot you that Jesus actually lived. It doesn't really move the needle in my world, even though the Jesus resume, I mean, if I really thought about it, I could probably come up with like 6 previous Savior characters who had the exact same resume. So did the actual Jesus of Nazareth actually exist? Sure, I guess. But I think it's just a recycled story from, you know, myths of the past, religions of the past. Yeah, did he exist? Sure. I'll give people that. I honestly just don't care. It's a bad thing to say.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been reading, or at least listening to the audiobooks of a lot of David Fitzgerald just recently, Richard Carrier, and people like that. And I'm becoming more and more convinced of mythicism. But like yourself, I don't think it really makes a big difference, because even if there was a real dude, it's still myth built up around that person.
Sure.
One thing that I came across just recently was something called the Raglan scale, and it's 22 a list of 22 attributes that mythical heroes had. You know, things
Okay.
like born in unusual circumstances, and a father or a king tries to kill them, and so on. So there's 22 of these things, and no real person that they actually know was real from history scores more than 7 out of 22 on this scale. And that the person who scores 7 out of 22 is Alexander the Great. And if you look at mythical characters, they always score much higher. And the highest scorer, I think, was Oedipus, who gets 21 out of 22. And then second equal with 20 out of 22 are Jesus and Moses. So,
Really?
yeah, really.
I gotta look that up because that is actually very interesting. Because there's a question. There's a fuck it. I'll just say it. The Austin Stone is an incredibly close-minded group of religious zealots, is what I'll call them. And one of the questions that they've always asked me, because I work them all because they're very close to the gym where I work, is kind of what do they always ask me? So, why is sacrifice pretty much in every story? That because again, killing your kid for me just doesn't make any sense. And their thing is, why is sacrifice in every story? I mean, in Bambi, the Lion King, and that scale that what's it called again?
Raglan.
Oh, I got to look that up. I guess because now it's a great story. It's a great thing to say. I mean, I'm a huge superhero fanatic, as you can see in my T-shirt. Every superhero has that exact same story. Superman lost his parents and his planet. Batman did. Barry Allen lost. I mean, everyone has lost something. Aquaman. I gotta look that up. I think you hit the nail on the head. But yeah, I guess it's just a great story to tell. Except we don't worship Superman at the end of the day.
Section of okay. Just by the way, I just thought I'd mention this because my profile pic is me face palming, and I just want to make it very clear that I'm not face palming at any of Robert's answers. I'm pretty much on board with all of Robert's answers. That is just the profile pic. So there was something else that we wanted to talk about today, and so if I get this up, it was this case with the. I came across in the paper with the Virginia pastor. God is larger than this dreaded virus. Dies of COVID-19. And I don't know if you want to speak to this case, Robert. I did a video about it just the other day and gave some of my thoughts. Do you have any thoughts about this and related stories?
Yeah, I do, and I actually do. There's one story. I don't even know which one to lead with first because this is sad. This story is sad, and in that Austin Stone church I was talking about earlier, a lady that I used to train, her oldest daughter got deathly ill in the middle of the night. And how I got on this thread, I have no idea, but my phone was blowing up all night as they were rushing her to the hospital. And update after update, everyone's, sending thoughts and prayers, of course. And at the end of the day, the little girl was going to be okay. I can't remember what she had, but she was going to be okay. And I still remember the husband, Adam, sending a text saying, your thoughts and your prayers work. We want to thank everyone. And I didn't give a shit. Right? I don't give a shit that you prayed. and thought that prayer worked. If that's what makes you feel warm at night, great. But the important thing is they prayed while they were in the back of the fucking ambulance. They called 911. So if you think God did it and not the people with 25 years of medical experience, knock yourself out, but you did the right thing. This pastor story, that's what kills me. Believe it or not, I don't give two shits who you pray to. I don't give two shits what Holy Bible you read. I think the world would be better if people had more self-esteem and didn't think there were these horrible sinners that deserved hell. But if that's what you think is making you not go out and rape and murder, knock yourself out. This guy didn't have to die. Believe in God all you want. Excuse me. Believe in Jesus all you want. Believe that a lady who's never had sex before got pregnant. Believe that shit all you want. Just believe in whatever you want to believe in while taking real world measures. The United States has been on lockdown for how many weeks now? Because coronavirus is real. If you keep praying, this guy should still be alive. And it's just, this is a really sad headline because this was a preventable death. And I can go on forever, but this just really kills me. He doesn't have to die. Believe in God all you want. But while you pray, take your medicine. While you pray, follow the rules of social isolation. The guy I'm looking at the screen right now, he should still be alive. And it breaks my heart to see headlines like this. It really does. It kills me to see this crap.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. And I one of the things that I went on about a lot in my video on this was that there were 185 people at the church service. And those people are all in danger because of these beliefs. And not only that, but people that they come in contact with are in danger because of these beliefs.
Exactly. And their beliefs, again, if it was just in a vacuum, I wouldn't give a shit. I use this analogy all the time. I don't care how much garlic you use, and that's just allergies. I don't have corona, so pardon the cough. I don't care how much garlic someone uses in their dinner prep. I really don't give a shit. But when I come home from work and someone who I did not invite in my house is in my kitchen using up all my pots and pans, you've emptied my icebox, you've cut, I now get to ask you about the fucking garlic. Right? It now affects me. So if you want to use 99 pounds of garlic in your fucking coffee, do it. I don't care. Just don't use my coffee machine to do it. Your beliefs are your beliefs. I don't care as long as it doesn't affect other people. Again, this guy should still be alive. The 185 people that he was around, you're right. They went from church to Walmart to the grocery store to whatever stores are open now, and they touch stuff. This guy, I don't need this. Then they put it back. And the next person who didn't go to that church or didn't go to church at all picks this up. So this guy's beliefs it's going to kill other people. And that is what blows my mind, and it kills me. Again, I think we would be better without religion, but I'm not going to stop people from believing what they want to believe. It's just their beliefs are going to cost other people. And it breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart to see shit like this. Not just for him, which is sad, but not just almost 200 people that he was in contact with that day, but the 100,000 people in that town who are now in danger because this guy fucked himself and potentially other people. It makes me truly sad to see shit like this.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I think a bit like your story with the people who actually called the ambulance and took the girl to hospital. I've got some religious friends who say God helps those who help themselves. So whilst they're praying about the coronavirus, they're also social distancing. And that to me is just prudent and sensible.
No problem at all whatsoever.
Yeah. There was something else in the article here saying, is this virus a sign of the end times? And I don't know about you, but I'm getting fed up with end times predictions. You've probably seen that poster in the past with all the end of the world predictions that never came true.
Yes.
And
my problem with the end of the world, what's that?
Yeah, I'd really like to hold their feet to the fire and say to them, okay, when is the end times going to happen? When is it going to happen by? And then when it doesn't happen and we go past that, I just want them to, STFU basically.
Yeah, exactly. I guess the only problem is, I'm trying to remember, was it the Jehovah's Witness? I'm trying to remember. Maybe, but either way, let's say the world's going to end in 1914. Well, it didn't happen. They're like, okay, 1960, it didn't happen. 1920, and they kept making these predictions, and it just never came true. But at that point, it was just a prediction. It was just someone pulling something out of their ass and saying it's going to happen now. My problem with what's going on now with Corona is some of these assholes are so fixated on death that I truly believe they will do anything to bring about the end of days. And so, you see these Corona challenges online where people will take, lines of soap and, they'll lick it and do shit like that and lick, posts on trains so people have to I worry. There's one thing about just a random prediction. The world's going to end on January the 22nd, 1973. Well, it doesn't fucking happen, and we call this person an idiot. We now have an end-of-the-world agent on TV right now. I'm afraid some of these people are going to do whatever they can. It's like Christian persecution. They will look for persecution anywhere. And when they can't find it, they'll make it up. They have an end-of-the-world agent in their back pocket, and that's what scares me. It makes me wonder, how far are these idiots going to go to bring about what they think will be the end of days? It scares me. They literally scare me.
Okay, Robert, I'm not going to play the whole of this because everybody's seen it, but this is...
Driving out of this Ohio parking lot is a woman who just attended a church service with dozens of other people, including...
So this is the Blood of Christ woman. Yeah. And, it highlights what you've been saying. Did you have any particular thoughts about that one?
I think the reason why it kicks me in my ass so hard is because I was part of one of those types of churches. That there was nothing that prayer could not accomplish. There was no disease that prayer could not cure. As long as your faith was strong enough, there was nothing you could not do. And it reminds me of a story from, I think, maybe just last year, to where a pastor went to some whitewater rapid stuff and was like, my faith is so strong, I will be able to walk on water just like Jesus. Well, you'll never guess what the fuck happened. He took one step, got caught in an undertow, and drowned. He actually couldn't swim. But even if he was Mark Spitz, I don't think it would have mattered because he was like in literally rushing water. And that's what scares me so much about this crap is that your beliefs aren't just going to get you killed. They're going to get everyone killed. And you hear the passion in that lady's voice from that clip, and I'm covered in the blood of Jesus. I'm covered. Never mind how fucking disgusting that sounds. My cat just jumped up, and if I'm never going to do that, but if I were to kill my cat and just sat there and, brush myself with its blood, one, you would hang up on me, and two, before you realize it, there'd be cops on my door, and it'd be a well-deserved visit. And so this whole cover yourself in the blood of Christ crap is ridiculous. Whether it's a metaphor or not is irrelevant, because I can hear Christians right now saying, oh, Robert, it's just a metaphor. I don't give a fuck. She actually thinks that a dead guy on a cross 2,000 years ago is going to protect her from a deadly disease now. And it scares me. And if I just have to be kind of a humanitarian about it, if she just took herself out and didn't affect anybody else, it's almost a push. It's almost a fair trade. I hope she lives to see 1,000. I hope she's okay. But my point is, she actually thinks she's covered in the blood of Christ. Then she's going to go to Walmart. Then she's going to go to her next door neighbor's house. She's going to spread this shit thinking she's invincible. And she'll be no different than that pastor from the clip before who said that God is bigger than Corona. And now his family is without, their dad, or their husband. This is just really sad, and it's really hard to hear, because personally, this really, really, really shoots me back to my childhood, because we were taught the exact same thing. He cures cancer. He'll make an amputee's leg grow back, and it's sad, and it's hard to see people make the same stupid mistake that I made, except I was a teenager, and that's a grown woman. That pastor is a grown man. But they should know better, and their families are going to mourn because they believed in something that has no real world effect, and it's really sad and hard to hear, truly.
Yeah, there was a slightly funny exchange on Twitter about this woman, and there was somebody from our community who was trying to explain, how many pints of blood there actually are in a person, and if all of her congregation were covered in the in the blood, that it wouldn't be possible. But I just came back and explained to him it was the same principle as the loaves and fishes.
Jesus' blood just continues to multiply.
Absolutely.
Cover millions of people.
Yep, that was the idea.
It's still kind of gross. Even if it's a metaphor, it's still gross. Being covered in blood, give me a break.
Okay, Robert. I had a few other things, all the sort of coronavirus figures, which back up what you're saying. I mean, this thing is, very, it's independent of what God you believe in or where you live or whatever. If you get this thing, you're in trouble. I was just going to say, because you're in Austin, do you have anything to do with these people at all?
I do not. I've gone to 2 of their outdoor functions. I got to see my future ex-wife, Tracy Harris, which was all that meant to me. That was good enough. And it was soon after that, Tracy Harris, Jen Peoples, a couple of them, there was this big splinter. And I actually kind of lost interest in the ACA after that. And so I'm not truly connected. I watch all their old clips, all their old clips. But after Tracy left, I just didn't feel the need to connect with those guys, to be honest with you.
I think Tracy Harris is quite a few people's future ex-wives, isn't she?
You know what? She is. On top of being actually just a very attractive woman, which is a plus, I used to love to watch her completely dissect people's arguments.
Oh, yeah, it's just wonderful.
And she did it with such precision, and that is a reason why I am so honored to share space with Lilith on the GonnaGoForIt channel, because I've watched her dissect people with the exact same intellectual precision that if you don't, and this is saying a lot. I've read the Bible 3 times. We were forced to memorize verses, all that crap. If someone said, do you want to get in a ring with random Joe or Jane Blow and have a Bible fight, I'd be like, bring it on. If someone put Lilith across the ring from me, I would tap out. I've never met anyone who could do what she does. And that was Tracy Harris. If you didn't know your shit, you didn't need to call in. You were going to get toasted. And so when she kind of left the ACA, Matt was great. Jeff D left a long time ago. And I just didn't have a reason to be connected to them after Tracy left, to be honest. But I got to see her speak twice. My life is now complete.
That's good. Okay, Robert. I think this has been a great discussion, and I don't actually have anything else for us today, but
Okay.
I'd love to have another discussion with you when I come up with some more material. Would you be up for that?
100%. Just hit me up on DM. I'll be right there.
Robert, thank you so much. It's been an absolute blast talking to you. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. And anytime. Anytime.
Let